After watching a lot of this on Facebook and getting a ton of requests, finally we are doing this. Hi there, this is Unmesh from PiXimperfect, and today we're gonna learn how to create a doll-like face/portrait in Photoshop. Have you ever seen a carved statue? If you have, that's the exact same way in which we're gonna approach this. First of all, what do? We carve out the structure, right? Similarly in this, first of all, we will carve out the structure using Liquify. Now, you just cannot fire up Liquify and just use the forward warp tool and squeeze things in and out. There's a technique to it. We'll talk about this, we'll learn that together. Next, what do? We soften it out using sandpaper. Similarly in this, we will soften the skin, soften the overall portrait. And after that, we apply particular effects, touch upon the eyes, skin, everything separately. So similarly, we're going to create 3 separate groups. One will focus on the eye, one will focus on the skin, and the other one will focus on the hair. We can also do a little bit of dodging and burning, some additional effects maybe on the lips. There's a ton of things to cover, so without any further ado, let's get started. So here we are in Photoshop, and if you want to download this photo, check the links in the description. So first of all, we're going to do a very strange thing. We are going to use the crop tool and crop it. Not inside, but outside. Let's zoom it out a little bit and choose the crop tool. You can click here or press the shortcut, which is C. Okay, C for crop tool, select that. Press C and then make sure you click on clear once, just to make sure you have nothing in here, no ratios here. Just click on clear once and then just expand it a bit. Okay, let's expand it a bit from the top, just like this, and from the sides. Now once you're expanding it from the sides, you can hold the Alt or Option, and then once you expand, have a look. It expands on both sides equally. Now expand a little bit and okay, hit enter once you're satisfied. Now why did we do that? We did that because in the process of structurizing, if that's a word, we might have to increase the size of the head or decrease the size of her body and do stuff like that. And for that, we want some space. We don't want her to be cut off. Suppose we want to make her a little taller. Now, if you don't have that canvas space and you want to make her taller, her head will cut off. So we increased the canvas space. Got the idea? Alright. Now, let's talk about adjusting the structure. For that, let's make a copy of the background layer or the layer, whatever the layer is, Control or Command J. Then you need to convert this into a smart object because you want everything to be non-destructive, right? So just go to Filter and click Convert for Smart Filters. You can also go ahead and right click here and convert to Smart Object. That's another way to do it. Click OK. Now we're going to apply simply Liquify. Alright, Filter and then Liquify. Now there's a technique to it which is very, very interesting. If you're using anything above Photoshop CC 2015.5, you will get this feature, and I hope you're using that. If you're not, you will have to stick with the forward warp tool. So once you open that up, it recognizes the face. If you cannot see it, if you cannot see this panel, just open this face aware Liquify and it will automatically determine where the face is. So you can select the face. If your image has multiple faces, it will come as face 1, face 2. So it has just one. Now start playing with the sliders, and that way you maintain the proportion. If you use the forward warp tool, it might not be that accurate, but these sliders are pretty neat. Alright, if you increase the eye size here, that increases the eye size of the left eye. But if you click in here, it will increase the size of both of the eyes together. So we want big eyes, right? Take it all the way to 100. What if we want bigger eyes? We'll get to that, and that's the trick. Alright, now what do we want? Maybe we want to tilt the eyes. Click on that clip and just tilt the eyes just a little bit. 72-ish is good. Eye distance is pretty good. Let's decrease it a bit like that. And then nose width, we'll just decrease that all the way to -100. Nose height, let's keep it at that. That's good. And then smile, let's decrease the smile. We want to have that cartoony lip, and it might be different for your image. Just saying, Every image is different, every portrait is different, every expression is different. So keep that in mind. Just keep in mind that you have to play with these sliders. Don't look at the values I'm applying, because that might be totally different for you depending upon the style and your image, right? Alright, so let's bring it a little down. Maybe we want to decrease the mouth width all the way to -100. Mouth height is fine. Lower lip, no. The lip thickness is also great. Do as little as you can. You don't have to move all the sliders, just if you need it, okay? Face width, let's decrease it a bit. Jawline, that's fine. Chin height, increase, maybe a little bit, just like that. And it's interesting when we increase the chin height, it actually decreases. Maybe I wanted to decrease it, so just play with it. This looks fine to me, and everything looks fine. Okay, once you're satisfied, click OK. That's the most you can go this time. Alright, once you're satisfied, OK. Now it's going to take some time and apply the effect. Now here's the trick. One of the very awesome features of smart filters is that you can apply stack of filters. So you can apply another Liquify to it and still have it non-destructive. Okay, so filter, again go to Liquify, and this time we can increase the size of the eye even more. See? It's back to 0 again. Just increase it like that. There we go. The size is all right. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of dissonance between the size of this eye and that eye. So what we can do, we can click on that clip and decrease the size of this one just a little bit. There we go. Now both are equal. Now just play with the nose. Maybe you want to decrease the nose width. Okay. And do you want to do eye tilt? A bit. Alright. Decrease the smile if you can. See, giving it a cartoony look. Upper lip, lower lip, everything is fine. We don't want to touch that. And things look fine. Pretty good. Alright. Now, is there anything else that you want to do? Maybe the mouth height, mouth width, chin height. Chin height is fine. Everything looks fine to me. And once you're satisfied with this one too, just click OK. Now the third one, the third Liquify is the key. Everything that you have to do with the face aware Liquify, we have done that. Now it's time for us to manually do Liquify. And for that, you can stack in another Liquify or you can do it in the same document. So for simplicity, you could have done in the same document. I'm going to open up another one. Okay. So 3 Liquifys will break down things for you better. So you will have 3 Liquifys here and you can turn on and off each one of them separately. Okay, so filter, Liquify. It's better for non-destructive editing. And this time, let's go all in it. Let's zoom in quite a bit and select the forward warp tool, the shortcut to which is W. And let's make the brush a little bigger. Always remember, make the brush of the size of whatever you want to affect. Maybe squeeze in, squeeze out. In this case, we want to pull down the cheeks. Okay, so we want to pull inside the cheeks. So we will make the brush as big as the cheeks and then pull that inside slowly and gradually. Now, the forward warp tool is something which should be used slowly and nudgingly. You don't have to do it all at once. Use that slowly and nudge it down slowly. Decrease the size and then nudge it all down. Increase the size, small movements, decrease the size, a little bit larger movements. Just like that. Okay. Now since this is a cartoon, make sure everything is straight, smooth and lined up. So as you can see, there's a little bump there. You're going to take care of that just like this, and it looks perfect. Let's zoom out a bit. That looks fine. Let's zoom out, zoom in and get this all right. Now you can take as much time as you want in this. You can play with whatever you want, and that looks fine to me. Now let's take care of the hair. So when it comes to hair, maybe increase the chin height. So we'll just increase it a bit, maybe decrease it, just like this. This looks fine. Now, since this is a cartoon, we want to make the hair a little more animated. So let's make the brush a little bigger, just as the size of the thing that you want to affect, right? So this loop, you want to increase that loop, just enhance that. So we'll just do something like this. And do not worry, because this is going a little softer. If you're doing this, this is going a little softer. But anyway, we're gonna soften the skin, soften the hair a little bit, so it doesn't matter. Okay, just go all in on it. That looks fine. Now do it here. Make the brush a little bigger. And by the way, if you're wondering how am I making the brush bigger, holding the alter option, the right mouse button, dragging it to the right to make it bigger, dragging it to the left to make it smaller. Drag it up to increase the pressure, drag it down to decrease the pressure. Now what is pressure? So if I hold the alter option, right mouse button, if I drag it up, have a look here. The pressure decreases. If the pressure is 1, just nothing happens. If the pressure is 100, even if I do little movements, it will move all of that. So always keep pressure somewhere between maybe 20-ish. Keep it less. Depends upon image to image, resolution to resolution, keep it less. And size of the brush too. So keep the pressure somewhere around, let's keep it around 20-ish. That's fine. Now let's nudge it slowly. Just like that. Now that's looking fantastic. Alright. Maybe you want to add some more movement to this. There we go. Maybe a little movement to this. Now as we give movement to this hair, you can clearly see that her earring is bending a little bit. So we might have to take care of that. Let's make it straight back. There we go. We can just, and you get the idea, right? You can take your time to do it. Okay, that looks right. Now this earring has also bent a little bit. Maybe, I don't know whether it was bent from the beginning, but yeah. So there we go. We can play with the hair a little bit. Okay, that looks good. That looks fantastic. Now let's give this side a little bump. That looks good. Now you can also change the shape of the hair. Maybe you want to come down and change the forehead a little bit, just like this. Okay, so bring the hair a little down and then change the shape of the hair. Maybe increase this. And that's why I asked you to increase the size of the canvas, because if we hadn't, it would have cut off. Okay, so maybe just like that. And you can shape it also if you want. So if you want, you can just shape it like this. Now let's go ahead and decrease the size of the body. If you have a look, in most cartoons, the size of the body is smaller than the head. So we want to do that. Now this is huge. So you want to make the size of the brush huge and image a little smaller. Okay, let's make the image a little small and increase the size of the brush like crazy, like this. And then take it down and start decreasing it. Just like that. The hand is going inside, like she's standing in this position. So we can do that. We can move the lower end of the hand in that position, just as to give it that look. There we go. We have increased the size. If you want to increase more, you can do that as well. But I think I was happy with that size. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, there we go. Now, once you have done that, you might have to adjust it more, even more. Let's make the brush a little smaller, holding the alter option, the right mouse button, dragging it to the left. And then you can just work on the edges, make it a little smoother, softer, and aligned. There we go. That looks fantastic. Now this has a bump, this doesn't have a bump, so you can just adjust that, play with that, and get that all right. See, there's a bump here. We can make it straight, just like that. And the hand is okay, looks right to me. Maybe you want to pull this up a little bit. There you go, make it a little straight. Okay, that looks fine. Alright, let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah, we are pretty much satisfied with it. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and play with the eyebrows, maybe with the eyes. Do whatever you want, maybe make it even more thinner if you want. So you can take it even more inside. If you're into that. You can make the cheek a little thinner. Get it in from here. Get that in a bit. Just like that. And you can play with it. You get the idea. Now, once you're happy with your result. Oh, one thing we forgot. We have to make the neck a little thinner. It doesn't look natural. So let's make the brush a little bigger and the neck a little thinner. So there we go. We're going to nudge it slowly. Always remember, nudge it slowly inside. Okay. So similarly on this side, nudge it slowly inside. Now, as we do it, Now here's the tip. As we do it, look at our earrings. It's bending again. We don't want that. Let's go back. So what is the shortcut of going back inside of Liquify? It's the same. Control Alt Z, Command Option Z. Let's go back. It doesn't look right. Okay, that was fine. It was our good moment. Now use this freeze mask tool. Okay, freeze mask tool, the shortcut to which is F. Now, once you select the freeze mask tool, you can just paint over the earrings, just like that. And now whatever you do, it will not affect the areas in red. Okay, let's take the forward warp tool and now let's try to make the neck a little thinner. See, it's not affecting it at all, right? It's not affecting that at all. So do the same with this. Now, as you do this, you will see something, you will observe something. If I go ahead and erase those mask areas using the Thaw mask tool, the shortcut to which is D, you see a little bit of inconsistency here. Have a look. A little bit of inconsistency. So you want to make sure, let's go back again. Just wanted to show you this problem. You want to make sure that you're painting in the right areas once you're using this tool. So the freeze mask tool, let's say that we don't paint any areas where the hair is there. Okay, so let's just paint on this area. And by the way, how did I draw this straight line? It's really simple. Let's move on to this one. Click once here. Okay, hold the shift key, click on the end. As simple as that. Now let's quickly do it using the forward warp tool and try not to affect these areas so much. And once you're done, zoom out a little bit and don't worry about the masks, just click OK. And there you go. You have your structure ready. So that was the first part of our tutorial, getting the structure ready. Now, if you look at the before and after, you will be astonished. So let it process that and let's have a quick look at the before and after. Okay, so this is the after, 3, 2, 1. There you go. This is the after and this is the before. Have a look. It looks really funny, okay? And if you're wondering what key am I pressing, I'm holding the alter option and clicking on it. It makes any layer solo. All right. Now, if you're worrying about what are these, actually these are stuff from the previous layer, the layer which is beneath it. So do not worry about that. That's just something we can take care of. Now, first of all, let's soften the skin. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of Liquify here. Of course, if you want to go ahead, change that, play with something, you can just double click on one of those. So for example, you just double click on this and Liquify will open again. And then you can play with that. Okay. You can play with the values and every value will be there intact. Let it load the Liquify and then I'm going to show you how it exactly works. So it's still rendering. I don't know why Photoshop is so slow. Maybe it's the fault of my computer, and do not ask which computer I'm using because this is a shitty laptop. I don't want you to use it. Okay, I think Liquify has been loaded. It's still loading. How unfortunate. So let's have a look. All the things, all the changes that we made are still there. Have a look. Now, if you want to reconstruct those, just select the reconstruct tool and then just simply paint over the areas that you didn't want to affect. Maybe you want to affect that again, and you get the idea how to do that. Everything is there intact. Let's cancel that. We don't want to make changes to that. Now, as you can see, a lot of Liquifys have been stacked and it looks a little ugly. If you want to add more filters, it becomes more clumsy, and we want to make it clear and still have it non-destructive. Here's what to do. Right click on it and convert that to smart object. It's already a smart object, but once you convert that into a smart object, have a look. Everything, Liquify, smart filters, everything goes away. It doesn't actually go away, but it makes stuff cleaner. If you want to play with Liquifys, just double click on the thumbnail. It will open up another document with all the Liquifys still intact. Have a look. Everything is still intact. Now you can go ahead and play with it, but as a result, it makes this cleaner. Now it's time for us to soften the skin, but we don't have to apply frequency separation and all that kind of advanced jazz because this is just a cartoon. We do not have to worry about skin texture, just a simple smooth blur. Okay, so for that we're going to use the surface blur because surface blur is very special. Here's how. Let's select the move tool. We don't want to be stuck in the crop tool, so move tool, and let's zoom in a little bit. Now go to filter, blur, and then surface blur. Mind you, this is a smart object. Everything is editable after the fact. Okay, surface blur. Now surface blur is a very special kind of blur. With simple Gaussian blur, it blurs out everything. But surface blur makes that distinction. It blurs everything which is already kind of blurred or smooth, and does not blur anything which has a little detail to it. Now you have to decide what are the areas with detail and what are the areas that need to be blurred, which are seamless. Now the radius controls the amount of blur. It does not control which areas to blur, which areas to not blur. That is controlled by threshold, okay? So threshold controls the area, radius controls the amount. So first of all, increase the radius to some crazy high number, maybe 63, to see which areas are being blurred. And then we're going to reduce it later anyway. Increase the threshold to a very high number as well. Now gradually decrease the threshold. Right now it's blurring everything, right? Now decrease the threshold gradually and let's have a look. Okay, now it's not blurring the areas with a little more detail. We want more areas to be unaffected, so let's decrease the threshold even more. And just when everything you want, and I say that again, just when everything you want has been sharpened, stop. Okay, so decrease the threshold. We wanted to have the eye sharpened, right? So right now, I think this is a good number to be at. Everything I wanted is sharp. Eyes are sharp, lips are sharp, maybe you can go a little lower. Okay, you can also use one more strategy. Okay, one more strategy is also very similar. Decrease the threshold all the way to 2 and then increase it. And just when you have softened everything you wanted to soften, stop. In this case, we wanted to soften the skin, so you can stop just when the skin goes smooth. Okay, 18 is the number for that. Maybe 14. In 14, maybe you can see some details. 18 and 22 is fine. Let's keep it at 22. Now, let's decrease the radius. Okay, it's too much. It's very high. Let's decrease the radius to 1 and then gradually increase it just when the things that you wanted have been softened. 11 is fine. Maybe 12 is also great. Now, click OK. Now, this is a smart filter. It can be changed anytime you want. Now it's being applied. Now the surface blur has been applied, but here's the catch. It will still blur the areas which you didn't want to blur. Okay, and just for that purpose, smart filters come with a mask. Have a look. This mask. You can choose the mask, move it by holding the spacebar. Once you're zoomed in, you can move by holding the spacebar and your cursor changes to a hand, and then you can drag and move. Okay, take the brush, make sure the foreground color is black. If it's not, you can always press X to toggle between the foreground and the background and D to reset the swatches. Okay, X, see it toggles. Alright, let's choose black and then just paint in this area. See, it had blurred that area. Okay, we just want details here. We don't want the veins back, we just want details here. And that's great. This can be soft. It looks good when it's soft. There we go, that looks good. Maybe some in the lips? No, it looks fine the way it is. Let's zoom out. Let's see if we want any other details anywhere else. Now, it looks great. Now, let's work on the skin. First off, let's add some shine to it. How do we do that? Add a curves adjustment layer. Okay, click on this adjustment layer icon and choose curves. Then increase it all the way up right here, just like that. And you might think I'm crazy, but I'm not. Maybe I am. And just double click on the right hand side of the layer or right click and choose blending option. That opens up the layer styles dialog box. Now what you have to do, take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. What it actually does is that it deletes the dark areas of the combined effect of the underlying layers from the current layer. I'm going to repeat that for you again. It deletes or hides the dark areas of the underlying layers combined, the layers which are beneath it, from this layer. So if I take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right, that's exactly what it will do. See? It's deleting the dark areas of the underlying layer, which means the layers which are beneath it, from the current layer. Makes sense? So the hair was dark, everything of that, these things were dark, so it's deleting those areas. Opposite will happen if you use this slider. It will delete the brighter areas, and you get the idea. Now, let's move it to the point where you think the shine is okay. Hey, the shine looks good, but we have to make it smooth, right? So to make it smooth, it's also very easy. Hold the alter option, click on that, and let's separate it a bit. It makes that a little softer. There we go. That looks nice. Okay, now once you're fine with this, click OK. Now there are some places where you didn't want it. It looks good here. It looks good on the nose, but it doesn't look good on her cheeks. So it always comes with a mask. Adjustment layers come free with a mask. So take the brush, make sure the foreground color is black. Simply just paint over those areas. Let's make the brush a little bigger and just paint over those areas where you didn't want the effect to be at. And there you go. You can also decrease the flow. Maybe you wanted the effect partially, and fine. See, I don't want to totally erase that. I just want to reduce it. So I will decrease the flow to around 20-ish and just like that. That looks great, doesn't it? So have a look at the before and after. Let's zoom in quite a bit. So this is the before, this is after the shine. It adds some amazing shine to it. You can increase the value of it. And maybe you want to play with it in blend if. You can just double click on it again. It opens up the blend if, and there you can play with it even more. Just like this, and click OK once you're satisfied. And there you go, you have added the shine. Now this comes under skin retouching within this cartoon. Now there are tons of things you can do with the skin. Maybe change the skin texture, maybe apply some effects. Heck, I have a complete playlist on skin retouching. Check that out right here or on my YouTube channel. Just click on playlist and you will find that playlist right there. Alright, for this, it's fine. You can also apply some dodging and burning on the skin. It's also really simple. So let's create a new layer, and that too curves. Now there are different techniques of dodging and burning. All of them are on my channel. You can watch them, and I'm gonna apply a simple technique. It's very simple. Create a curves adjustment layer and also increase it all the way to like this. Use the same technique. Paint this mask completely in black. Now since this mask is completely white, we can just invert it. It will turn completely black. Press Ctrl or Command I. Now let's take the brush, decrease the flow to 1% or 2%. Make it very soft. To make it soft, drag it to the right and left to make it bigger and smaller, but when you drag it up and down, it makes it soft and hard. Drag it up to make it soft and increase the size, zoom it in and start dodging. Now what is dodging? Dodging and burning is brightening and darkening particular areas of the image to add dimension to it. Or in other words, if you had a flat circle and you brightened a particular side and you darkened the other side, it becomes what? A sphere, right? I have a tutorial on that. You can check it out right here or on my channel. That's exactly what dodging and burning is. Brightening and darkening particular areas of the photo to add some dimension. Dodging is brightening, burning is darkening. Okay. So let's brighten the areas which are already bright. It's a simple technique, and make sure the foreground color is white so that we're getting that effect. Just like that. It's simple. The cheek, everything is alright. Now let's paint some of her neck. Give it some good effect. Give it a little shine like that. That looks good. And you can work on it. It takes time. I'm gonna fast forward this so you don't have to wait throughout the process. So there you go, we have done a quick dodging and burning, and you can also apply the blend if trick to this one as we applied to the previous one to make sure that we are not dodging the areas which are dark. Okay, so double click on the right hand side of the layer. Simple, opens up the layer styles dialog box and take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. Yep, that was pretty much good. We did a pretty good job. Okay, and click OK. Now sometimes we go a little overboard when it comes to dodging or burning, so you can also go ahead and decrease the opacity of the same. I think this opacity is great. 90 is good and works pretty fine for this, but for actual portraits you might have to decrease it even more, maybe to 40-ish, but this is a cartoon, it looks good. Okay, we have added the dimension. Now it's all we have to do with the skin, so let's group both of these together. Hold the Control or Command, click on the other one, Control or Command G. There we go. You can name that skin. Now let's work on the eyes. Again, I have a complete playlist just dedicated to eye retouching. Go to my YouTube channel, click on playlist, and there you'll find eye retouching complete playlist. Lots of things you can do with the eyes. You can make that shine, you can add more depth, change the color, tons of things. Okay, so for this, let's zoom in first and let's change the color to maybe green. If you want to, you can do that, and I'll show you how to do that. So create a hue saturation adjustment layer. And if the eyes were dark, you wanted to increase the brightness of the eyes first and then apply that color. So in this case, I think the eyes are relatively brighter, but still we can go ahead and apply some curves and then increase it just a little bit, just like that, and maybe increase the contrast like this and paint it black. Control or Command I, take the brush, make sure the foreground color is white, and just paint on the eyes, just to make it bright first. Okay, and flow to around 100 and paint on these areas. Fine. That looks good. Do it with the right eye similarly. There you go. Now let's go ahead and change the color. Create a hue saturation adjustment layer, and you can change the hue to green. This is blue. Alright, this is green. Now you can copy the mask here. We already created that mask. So hold the alter option, click on it, drag it, and paste on this one. Replace layer mask, yes. You want it to just affect this area, and you can now just play with the values of hue. This is fine. Increase the, okay, there you go, just like that. And you have just changed the color of the eye. You can also click on colorize to make sure every color changes to green. So just like this, and increase the, and let's see how that looks. It looks fantastic, but I think I liked the brown even more. So let's delete that. We didn't want that. Okay, this looks fantastic. And decrease the curves a little more. Now, let's add some details to the iris, okay? How to do that? Add a new layer and paint it with gray, okay? Or add a solid color adjustment layer. Click on this adjustment layer icon and choose solid color and choose 50% gray, the hex code to which is 808080 or RGB, values at 128. Click OK and change the blend mode to color dodge. As you can see how much highlights we have added to the iris, but it adds to the whole image. We don't want that. Mask it out. Select the mask, Control or Command I, take the brush, decrease the flow this time to 20-ish, and just paint on the opposite direction of the catch light. So this is the catch light, the opposite of the catch light, just paint here, and there you go. It looks interesting. Just paint here, there you go. It looks interesting. Done. Have a look at the before and after of the eye. So this is the eye. It's too much. We can decrease the opacity a bit to maybe 70%. That looks good. Zoom out a bit and make a group of both of these. Control or Command G, and then have a look before eye, after eye. Now you can darken up the outer areas of the iris. That gives the eye much more dimension. So create another curves adjustment layer, curves, and then decrease it, and then create a mask again, paint it completely with black. Control or Command I, take the brush, make sure the foreground color is white. You want to make those areas visible so it's white, and just paint in on the corners of the iris, maybe on the middle a bit, and increase the flow. Okay, that looked good. Zoom out. Yeah, that adds more dimension. Now you can play with the curves if you didn't want to add too much. Yep, that's interesting. Now have a look at the before and after. So this is the before, this is the after. Adds so much more dimension to the eye. You can also go ahead and add more curves and increase the brightness of this one. Control or Command I. Take the brush, dab once on the opposite direction of the catch light, just like this, and do it similarly here to the opposite direction, and increase it even more and increase the contrast a bit. Yep, that looks interesting, doesn't it? So there you go, we have done with the eyes. Now it's time for us to work on the hair. Now when it comes to hair, first of all, we need to soften it a bit. We have a lot more details than we want in a cartoon. Have a look. So much more details. We have already softened it a bit, but we want to get rid of even more details. So we can do that also very easily. So we have this group of eye, so we can name that eye first. and create, just close that, collapse that, and create a new layer. And on this new layer, we want everything merged. So how do we do that? Hold Control, Alt, Shift and E, Command, Option, Shift and E if you're using a Mac. And once you have created this layer, it's really simple right now. Go to Filter, Noise, Reduce Noise, right? Reduce Noise. Now Reduce Noise softens stuff. It's actually made for reducing noise, but if you increase the strength all the way to 10, preserve detail, reduce color noise, everything to 0, strength to 10, and make sure it's default, click OK, and do that a couple of times, 3-4 times, until and unless it makes the hair smooth. Just do that, and it applies a very awesome kind of smoothness. So let's just zoom in, do it a couple more times, filter, reduce noise again. And you can add that one more time, I think it's enough. Now, create a mask. We want the effect just on the hair. By the way, the effect is also looking good on the overall image. Have a look, it looks nice, just like a cartoon. You can leave it at that. But for this example, let's keep the effect just to the hair. So we will create a mask, holding the Alter option and clicking on the mask button. That creates a negative mask, okay? Mask with black, take the brush and just start painting on the hair with white. Select the mask. Just see the smoothness. Isn't that wonderful? You can also paint on the eyebrows if you want. There you go. Done. Now let's add some highlights to the hair. For that, again, you can apply curves, or what you can do, you can open any adjustment layer. Click on this adjustment layer icon and choose levels. Anyone will do. Just make sure it's not affecting the image if the values are at normal or 0. Okay, so change the blend mode of this one to screen. Now screen is a blend mode which brightens stuff. Okay, just to recap, overlay increases the contrast, soft light a little contrast, screen brightens, multiply darkens. So screen, and now you can just make the mask black, Controller Command I, take the brush, make it a little softer, just start dabbing. Here you go. Highlights, highlights, highlights. Okay, we did a little extra there. You can just erase that. And a little more highlights here. There you go. And maybe here, a little highlights. And then once you have added those highlights, the same trick, double click on the right hand side of the layer. Take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right, just like that. And you can break that, holding the Alter option, click on this and break it, just like this. That looks fantastic. There we go. Have a look at the hair before and after. So make a group of both of these. Controller Command G and HAIR. Before, after. Interesting hair. Now some of you might be wondering, I didn't burn the skin. I dodged it. I made it brighter, but I didn't darken it because this didn't require it. You only apply some effects when your cartoon or image or portrait demands it. Do as less as you can. Less is more. Always remember that. Now, if you want to, you can do that. Let's just open up the skin and add one more curve, just like that, and take it down, and then you can Controller Command I and take the brush, make sure it's wide, flow to 1%, there we go, and you can just start darkening the areas if you want, but I don't think it requires to. So just like that, you can start darkening some areas and give it a little more dimension. Maybe you can use some of that, just like this. Have a look before, after. Add some dimension. You can do that as well. Okay, maybe here a little bit, get a little more dimension. And one of the tricks is painting on the areas which are already dark. This is something which you can do. Okay, I did a very quick job. You can take your time and do it. I'm going to show you my final result at the end. I've already shown you in the beginning, I guess. So there you go. You have a cartoon already ready. Now you can also change the color of the lips if you want. I don't like the pink so much, so let's create a new layer on top of every other layer, and it's hue saturation, and you want to affect just the lips. So what do we do? Click on this hand icon and click on the lips. Now it selects that area but not specifically accurately. So right now we will change the hue all the way to -180 and increase the saturation. Okay, now Let's make it narrower. The bar at the top is the target, the bar at the bottom is the result. It's the complete color spectrum. So right now we are affecting the reds. Make it narrower and move it from the center so that it just affects the lips. There we go. And expand it from the side. The outer sliders are just like fuzziness, and it controls the transition, whether the transition between the areas that are targeted and the areas that are not targeted are smooth. So if the distance between the rightmost slider and the second rightmost slider is more, the transition, the smoothness between the areas which are selected and the areas which are not selected or targeted will increase. If it's very close, it will become harsh. Have a look, it's very harsh. Now it becomes smooth. Just like that. You don't want to affect the skin. Okay, now change the color. Just bring the hue back to 0, saturation back to 0. Now change the color to probably orange or red, something like that. Increase the saturation a bit and decrease the lightness. That's interesting. Now have a look at the before and after. You'll be stunned. So this is the before, this is the after. Whoops, I just clicked somewhere else. Now sometimes this can happen. All you have to do, right click on it and choose show hide all other layers. Now you might have to click that again because this will show just this one, show hide all other layers. There you go. So this is the before, this is the after. Now you can expand the background. You can just turn it off. You don't want that. And you can create a solid color adjustment layer beneath everything. So solid color adjustment layer with this yellow color, and you can match that. Click OK. You can match that by selecting this, creating a mask, take the brush, make it bigger, make it softer, and just start erasing that. Just painting with black. Press X and then just start. Increase the flow. It's 1% is not going to work for you. And just like this, and you get the idea. You can also crop it if you want, and that's how to do it. You get the idea. You can also just use one more method, which is cropping. Let's turn off this mask. Okay, so you can just crop it, just clear it, make sure it's okay. So crop it, and you can fill that area very easily using the content aware fill. Just crop it like that. Hit enter once you're satisfied. So these corner areas are missing. You can fill that. So it's working, it's rendering smart filters. It's gonna take time. I'm gonna come back in just a minute. We are back at it again and it has finished rendering. Now let's go ahead and fill these areas. To do that, really simple. Create a new layer at the top of every other layer. We're gonna create a merged layer again. Create a new layer, Control Alt Shift E, Command Option Shift E. You can even do that directly, but just to be safe, you can create a new layer first and then do that. So Control Alt Shift E, it creates a merged layer. It should do that. There you go. Now select the magic wand tool. Okay, magic wand tool. Right click on it if you cannot see it. If you can just see the quick selection tool, select the magic wand tool and make a selection of this. Hold the shift key. Magic wand tool comes with a plus. Make a selection of this, and just zoom in quite a bit. This. Now let's expand the selection because you don't want to have a line here. If you just apply, if you just fill it here, you might have a little line here. You don't want that line. That error can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it can happen. So just go to select, modify, expand. And you can expand that by say 6 pixels depending upon the resolution of your image. This is a pretty large image, so 7 pixels. Let's go. Expand that. It's pretty much, I wanted to expand a little more, but that's okay. Go to edit, fill, and choose content aware. Normal 100%, click OK. And let's see what kind of a job it does. It does a decent job most of the time, and I hope it does an excellent job this time. And I'm just speaking just to pass the time on the fill. Let's see, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D. It did not do anything. It did not do anything. Let's try that again. We did a mistake. Go to edit, fill, and check off preserve transparency. You don't have to have it checked because if you have that checked, it says preserve transparency, which means do you want to keep transparency intact? No, you want to fill it, right? So let's just uncheck that, okay? There's the learning, and I'm hoping it does a pretty good job this time, and it's taking a little time. I'm going to fasten that up. There you go. It did a brilliant job. Control or Command D, and your image is ready to go. So So that's how you create a cartoony image in Photoshop. Now there are a lot more techniques, lot more styles, some using smudge, and you can try all of that. This is just one of the ways. I hope you enjoyed it, and before we end this, just a quick little recap. First of all, just remember that rock cut statue. Set the structure right, soften it, and then we work on separate areas like eyes, skin, hair, and you can apply some special effects as well, maybe some color lookup, and that's all there is. Hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe, ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss a thing. I would like to take this moment to thank all these nice people for helping keep PiXimperfect free for everybody forever. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.